We're back. Chris and Joe with a little bit of Wet Your Palate. We're going to tell you about what this episode is about. We're calling this the cold episode, ice cold.
It's freezing. It's freezing in here. You're going to like it.
We talked about ice baths, the Wim Hof method.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about cryo-extraction.
Cryo-extraction.
Extracción de hielo.
Oh, man. Joe really got concise about it.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Please stay tuned for that.
We probably go a little bit too deep into some stuff that you might get bored about. Just fast forward through the parts where Chris is talking and you get to the good stuff.
We also talk about barbecue.
That's right. We hit up the barbecue. That was the only part that wasn't ice cold. Then we talked about cold-blooded people, a cold-blooded boss.
Joe doesn't have the ability to change his clothes.
Dude, we're moving into a new house, so it's kind of like there's just shit everywhere. The amount of cardboard boxes in my garage right now are like,
Are you
like every night.
Are you sleeping at your house?
Yeah. I've been there. I've been there since Thanksgiving, so it's been good. Like we were cooking like Thanksgiving, the whole meal in a new kitchen, which was like awesome because there's no better way. I don't think there's a single holiday that is better to break in a kitchen than Thanksgiving. Like you find out all the flaws.
Yeah.
I didn't find any flaws. Dude, one of the things that I did in this kitchen, because I always had a big sink. I love big sinks. So made it out of a slab, right? Because you can't find a sink this big. So it's like 4 feet wide, and I got 2 faucets. So you're so efficient with like cleaning, cooking, whatever. Like people can do whatever they need to do. It all just goes down to one drain. So it's like, okay, I'm doing the soaping and washing. Somebody's doing the rinsing and stacking for like the big dishes and stuff. But like, dude, it worked awesome. So yeah, I'm stoked. It's awesome. But like, it's. It comes with its difficulties of like just not having enough time in the day, especially when you got to make wine, be an influencer, whatever. I don't know. It's hard.
I like how you're embracing who you are. Day by day. You used to try to fight the influencer thing.
Dude, I think it's funny because there's like articles are being like written now where it's just like regular articles that interview me about like wine. Like when I did one about like consolidation recently, and what my thoughts are, and because I can't stand this consolidation in the industry. It's like we need more small, family owned and operated wineries. Like that's the core of this business, right? Otherwise, you just have a bunch of brands without a soul. Oh, you don't like my opinions? Well, then go on the internet and complain. But no, so where was I going with that? What the fuck?
I think where you're going is that you're embracing being an influencer now and not a winemaker.
So then they say winemaker and now like influencer. I'm like, dude, really? And you can't like tell.
They kind of have that backwards, right?
You can't tell people to like, just like, I want to edit everything you write. So like this article comes out and it's like, oh, you're all my friends. You're an influencer.
Oh, I bet you love it.
I love it. Yeah, it's great. So,
but I was asking about your house because I noticed so you have obviously working showers there, and
I knew this was going to come up.
You have access to like your clothes are there, so like you could have changed. Have you showered since our last podcast? Because you're wearing the same outfit, exact same, down to the hat.
Maybe
it's almost
maybe
like
I wore this on purpose, but maybe I haven't actually showered or even been home for a couple days. I don't know. Maybe I locked myself out of. Maybe I don't have a new set of keys.
I feel like it's like a tactic. Well, I think it's a tactic because you want me to like take note of this outfit. Did you want me to talk about your hat? Was that it? Is that why are you gonna?
I do love it. This is actually a really comfortable.
Oh, here we go. Watch.
No,
it's so natural. He's like, oh, this hat.
So I got a problem with hats, and the problem is that my head is so like fucking like the circumference is big, so I'm always on the last dot. This thing, dude, I got 3. I got support here. I have to duct tape the back of all my other hats.
Wait, what size head are you?
7 and shit.
1/8?
No, dude, I'm like 7/6 or no 5/8.
You're 5/8. Okay, yeah. I'm 1/8. So your head's bigger than mine.
It's kind of a pain in the ass, honestly.
Yeah.
And then when I let my hair grow out,
that big influencer brain of yours.
Fuck you.
But I see that. So if you can't see Joe right now, and you don't know, but from our last episode, he's wearing the same outfit.
I already pulled it up. We were just talking about it.
He hides it well though, because he just wears the vest and plaid, and I think sometimes he thinks no one will notice. But some people do. But
I'm a simple creature like everybody else, dude. I got my comfortable clothes. I got plenty of other clothes, but like I go to the same like 5 shirts, same like 5 pants, whatever.
Very still lumber sexual.
That's yeah.
But he has the hat Terry Black's Barbecue, Austin, Texas.
Okay, the reason number one, I'd never heard of this place, But I was down and I was hunting in Texas. And,
Okay, what kind of hunting?
Hunting elk.
Oh.
And so, and my one of my sons got his first elk, which is awesome. But
Nice.
no, so we were like going back, and we ended up flying through Austin to get back, and so and Austin's a pretty like cool town, right? Like if you ask like a traditional Texan, they're like, oh, that place is a piece of shit, you know, like they because it's gotten pretty like left wing, right? And a little crazy. Like when you start seeing signs go up that say like keep Portland weird or keep Austin weird, you know, like they've crossed into another dimension of like normalcy, right?
Yeah.
But they also have their own culture. But they still have a lot of the old Texas elements in play, right? So you walk down like Congress Avenue, I think is what it was, which is now, I guess it used to be kind of like a shithole, and now it's all, you know, been like brought back up, cool little shops everywhere. But like everything was very similar in style. And it's like, if you took the style of the rhinestone cowboy, like Dolly Parton, like that kind of like glitz and glamour, fringe, rhinestones, all that stuff, and mixed it with a hipster, you have the Austin, Texas style. And dude, it's like, I think it's hilarious because like they're kind of staying true to these Texas roots, but they're like bringing it, making it like their own thing that's kind of, you know, really, really eclectic, like super eclectic and eccentric. So I asked somebody, I was like, what is like the best barbecue place around? And they were like, Terry Black's. I was like, I never heard of it, so let's give it a shot. So me and my son go over there, and dude, the setup, the system was awesome. And so I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough of this place. So you walk in, and it also, so after I got this hat, I come back, and my wife's like, oh, I heard of that place. That's a Joe Rogan's favorite barbecue place. And I was like, well, fucking,
really?
He's got good taste, because it is goddamn good. There's the two best barbecue places. I'll get into the second one in a minute. But there's two that have like lit my world on fire. Terry Black's is one. Quality was great. Setup was awesome. There was a line out the door, but it goes fast. They give you a tray. You pick out your sides. You get your drink, whatever you want, water, beer, whatever. And then you go up to a counter, and they just have a plethora of meat like laying out that's just been come off the smoker right then. And they'll be like, what do you want? So I was like, I'm going to do pork ribs and beef ribs, and then did like some rice, on like Spanish rice on the side. And then some pulled pork and whatever else. And so they're like, well, how many do you want? So they're like cutting however many I wanted. And then they just put it on a scale. They type in the cost per pound, and then they charge you for the cost per pound, and then throw it on your tray.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it was awesome. The only negative was all their barbecue sauces were like a little on the sweet side. I like that like vinegar-based, that kind. So nonetheless, like you could eat that stuff without any barbecue sauce. The rub was awesome. It was great. So we're walking out, and picked up this hat there because I realized that it's good for big heads. But it's Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas, right?
Yeah.
They do everything big. And so walking out, and I see the smokehouse in the back, and I'm like, hey, Bishop, let's go. That's my son. It's like, let's go take a look at this thing. So we go over there, and we're just like peeking inside. Dude, they had 4 20-foot-long smokers, and the feed for the wood was on the end of it. And so just stacks and stacks of wood and whatever else. And we're just like looking in there. I'm like, this is like an amazing piece of like equipment. I don't even know what to call it. Like they were massive. And so the dude that's in there, the pitmaster, I guess I'd call him, he's like, you guys come on in. You want to check it out? I was like, really?
Yeah.
He's like, okay, I'll pop this one open. You got to see this tri-tip. He's like, I'll pop it open, but I got to do it real quick because I don't want to lose all the heat. And I was like, dude, all right, awesome. So I got a picture of it. Like it's just blackened on the outside, looked gorgeous. We also got some tri-tip. It was phenomenal. And so I'm like, dude, you guys ever shut down here? He's like, we run 3 shifts, 24 hours a day. These fires and smokers never go out.
Damn.
I was like, and I don't know how much beef and pork they put down like in a day.
I would like to know
that. But it's
that,
got to
though.
be like at least a steer or two and a hand.
Hours?
Dude, crazy. Like awesome. And the food is great.
Huh.
Second, we'll get into wine for everybody listening at some point. Okay, we're talking barbecue
Just
right now.
stay with us, okay? Just hop in, pull up a chair, and get comfy. All right.
No, you always
This
get the reminder, like say something about the industry you work in. It's like just
All
you
right,
know,
this is what we do.
I'll tie the barbecue into the wine in a minute. Just give me time.
Yes.
I'm on a roll right now. My mouth is watering.
Yeah.
I need some barbecue. So, the other one was in. So that was in Austin. The other one was in Dallas-Fort Worth area, and it was called Hurtado's. And they call it Tex-Mex, but I feel like that's disrespectful because you always think of Chili's, right? Tex-Mex, like it's not anything like that. Like it was much more of a barbecue joint with a Mexican flair. And when I say Mexican flair, like it was all the good shit that you want from the Mexican cuisine added to barbecue meats. Phenomenal stuff. Another very simple setup. You grab a tray, whatever else. But dude, the food there, it was out of this world. Like it was that shit was. If they wanted to open like stores throughout the whole country, I bet they would crush it no matter what.
Now, did they have a wine at these establishments?
So they did, but nothing really good. And that is where I was going to tie it back in because it's a huge miss. Because we've talked about chilled Pinot, and I'll take chilled Pinot and barbecue with a vinegar and spicy sauce any day of the week over a beer, over a soda, or anything. And it is like, I mean, it just kind of cleans the palate. Yeah. So it just makes everything taste better, especially if there's like a little sweetness in the sauce. It kind of cuts through that sweetness. But the fat and everything, it's a perfect wine for it. So that was the miss. So no, they didn't have Pinot there. They had like half bottles of Kendall Jackson, reserve Chardonnay, and it's like, eh. Yeah. I will say that's a decent wine for the price, but it's just like, it's kind of just run of the mill, right? It's not like, oh, this is an experience, and it didn't really like, Anyways, so highly recommend those if you're running through Texas, and definitely bring a bottle of Pinot Noir because it is
chilled.
Chilled, yeah, just
Please.
chill it down. Doesn't need to be like ice cold, but like get it down to like 45, 50.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can drink it straight out of the bottle too, because like you don't want to messy up your glassware, right? With that barbecue sauce and the fat all over your hands.
Yeah.
So you might as well just take a whole bottle and enjoy that with your ribs, and then if you don't finish the bottle at that moment, all you got to do is barbecue, man. You go into a food coma. All you got to do is sip on that remainder of that bottle for like the next 30 minutes, and then go wash your hands. You're ready to go.
Yeah.
Locked and loaded.
You're ready to go.
Dude, my mouth is watering right now so bad. I do love barbecue.
Yeah. Well, see, there it was. There you tied it in right there. Gave a perfect pairing.
That's it. Perfect
to
pairing.
Barbecue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chilled Pinot. Sweet.
Speaking of chilled.
Speaking of chilled.
Before we get to that, hold up. Hold on. First of all, you're talking shit about my outfit.
Whoa. Oh, no. Oh, great.
What are you, like, are you trying to, like, go into the military or some shit? Like, are these your hipster fatigues?
Wow. If you could tell, Joe's been working on his stand-up.
Welcome to Go With Your Palate. I'm Joe Wagner, and we got the co-host right here, Chris Fat Mario Rubio. This is a place where we have zero judgment, and we hope you do too. So we talk about wine.
Entrepreneurship.
You sound really excited. Entrepreneurship. And whatever the fuck else. Are you Eeyore today, man? Did you not sleep last night?
No, actually, I'm feeling good. You know why?
No, I don't. Yeah.
Well, because I was going to tell you that tying everything together, but I built my ice bath.
No way. Did you?
Yeah.
Did you like?
Yeah.
Dude, we're talking a lot about cold stuff on this.
I hope
this is the cold episode.
This is the cold episode. This is what it's going to be, and so hang in there too, because I think this is good shit. I just wanted to share, but also want to bring back the fact that we were supposed to do this together. I hope I could bring in a clip from our last episode and like supposed to
my new house.
You shook my hand and said we were going to build these together, and then now mine's built. But
don't want to fucking buy one.
Anyways,
I
okay,
one.
So I drank the iced Kool-Aid, if you will, and I want to give props. Actually, I didn't get this, but I want to give props to Josh Price.
Okay, Josh Price runs our sales part of our sales business for I don't want to get details, but like national accounts, off premise, blah, 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 blah. Anybody in the industry hearing that, they know what that means in Texas, kind of South Central region.
Yes, thank you. And he passed along the Wim Hof book, which we've talked about that before, but that's what kind of got this all started in education and really diving into this cold bath, ice plunge kind of culture. And but anyways, so yeah, I built it. And it's really easy, and there's a lot of great videos you can find on it. But really, you just get like a chest freezer, and then you just seal all the seams in that chest. I use silicone.
Okay.
You can use like Marine Waterweld. JB is like a good brand. So you seal that up just to make sure that because it's not obviously meant to hold water. And And so you just for like safeguard to hold the water. And then like once you put that in there, then you just kind of need filtration, right? Or like to sanitize the water and find out.
Are you running a loop in this thing? You got like a pump?
Yeah. So well, actually, so I don't. So what I do have, I'll tell you what I do have, is that people use different things, but I knew I wanted to use UV. So that's just like a aquarium filter with like the UV filtration, and then I also have another marine land is the other one filtration, which is just kind of like your paper filter, like it's like carbon filtration, and so like that's just gonna keep the water clean, obviously from different you're dunking all the time.
How do you chill it?
And so how you chill it is that you have just this like really cheap. You can get them. I think they're like like $30. It's like a temperature control unit that you can get on Amazon or anything. And all it really does is like you just plug in the freezer into that. You can set your degrees. So right now,
so it just like runs water through a cold like a freezer. And
well, the
like
freezer,
a coil.
So the freezer is what's keeping the water cold. Now, with the temperature control thing, is the only thing that does is that you could set it at 40 degrees. So then that way, when the water gets to 40, it will shut off the freezer. And for any reason, if the temperature rises, then it will click the freezer back on. That's all it's really doing to keep it at that temperature at all times. And then you can just kind of do like nerdy things, like add a little stuff. Like I get like a time clock there that I could have like displayed. And then I have another temperature thing just to make sure I'm really getting the true temperature of the water.
And like bath bombs, of course.
No bath bombs, man. No bath bombs. That will get in the way of the thermal layer.
What temperature are you running it at?
So right now I'm like 48, 47.
And what do you want to get to?
I would like to get down to 40, but I think like optimal temperature to really get true all of the benefits would be like trying to hit that 48 to 44 range. And
you're staying in this thing for how long?
So the goal is 3 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. And if you talk to and there's like a lot of great people you can find out. There's a lot of people know of the biohacker Gary Brecka.
Uh-huh.
And he's really renowned, but also like Dana White's been he's been working with Dana White a lot and stuff and like that, just pumping up a lot of his knowledge. But he's a really big promoter of the ice bath as well, saying it's like by far the best thing to actually just strip fat, even over like any like aerobic exercise and stuff. So I'm trying to pitch you right now. I'm trying to sell it on you.
I will get there. I gotta move into this house first.
So anyways, so it's basically that's like the goal, but you can still get benefits from even doing less that time and accumulating it every week.
Okay.
While you're
and you
working
do it like
yourself
once
up.
a day?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but you don't have to do it once a day. I mean, it's also interesting, as I've been like diving into this and learning about it, is that so a lot of it is like it's been really known for like recovery, right? But I was just like listening to a podcast recently. It was like really good knowledge of that, how after you finish a workout, if you're really looking for like building muscle, hypertrophy, like and gaining size and stuff, that actually doing an ice bath right after a workout is not they're finding out is not actually the best, because you want your muscles to swell, you want all that blood to be in there for the adaptation to work. But so I'm trying to like recommend it to do it in the morning, because a big part of it too.
So do it in the morning before you work out?
Well,
or you want a separation
between
any...
So even some people could do it like on a different day, like say a recovery day, not on your workout day. But then also maybe shoot for it. Like the good thing about doing it in the morning is that a big part of it is actually helping. There's like the parasympathetic nervous system, which is like that's like your chill mode. That's like really what helps you like kind of like relax. Yeah. And so if you actually can do it in the morning,
so you're breaking that.
Yeah, it's all about.
It's like. Did this whole thing start because like some guy was just like, dude, it's so hard to get up in the morning after like 40 years old, and so like he's like throwing cold water on his face like we used to do when we were kids, like wanting to stay awake. He's like, I'm just gonna jump in an ice bath. He's like, dude, this fucking works.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of.
Is it a gimmick at all? Or is like the science is real? Because this thing just blew up like in the last year.
I don't think it's a gimmick. Like I said, you're talking to someone that is already admitting that I drank the ice Kool-Aid. So, like,
but you feel,
different.
Yeah, you feel better
for sure, dude. And I think, look, and the cold shower is definitely a different even animal. And we were talking about this on previous podcasts, and you were talking about doing the cold showers. I mean, the ice water immersion is going to be even a next level of it.
Well, dude, that's touching every part of
Yeah.
like, yeah, you're getting every part of your body in there.
Yeah.
You keep your hands out?
No.
Oh, you
Oh,
go,
no,
so
no,
you
you're
go like
submitting-
neck.
oh, no, so no, you
Okay.
so go up to your neck and then dunk your head, so you fully submerge your head, and then you're sitting in there.
Do you feel like you should be supervised when you do?
Like I'm gonna like just like die or
Like
whatever.
your body's just gonna like go into shock or something, and you just fucking slip into unconsciousness?
No, I
No?
mean, I don't know. Maybe I should have. I didn't really think about that, dude. I could have died. Well, the one thing I do want to note, though, is if you get into this stuff, please do your research and watch videos and stuff. A big part of this is that they always recommend unplugging everything before you get into that ice bath. Unplugging the freezer, and this is just what I do. But like unplugging everything, meaning like even the filters and everything like that. I get that they could be used in aquariums or whatever, but why?
Just in case.
Why take
Yeah.
a chance? I haven't heard of any, thank goodness, and hope never do of any.
Hey, Art, I want to know what it costs to buy an ice bath, like a pre-made.
No,
whatever.
I'll tell you right now. You could get like ones for 3,000, which would be like your lower end.
Oh, that's the low one. Okay.
Yeah, that's like the lower end, and then you can go a little bit step higher. So like the lower end would probably be like the Edge. That's like a popular brand, inflatable. You can kind of take it anywhere, but then you're gonna.
I mean,
I've
been a fan of edging at times.
Yeah, well, you kind of edge it out. But there's like so these little ones like where you're looking at that. So Art just brought up like the icy tub, right?
No, man, I want to see.
Look at that,
I wanna see, like,
69.89.
I want to see the standalone unit that like is running all the time, like the like the hot tub version that like you maybe put a cover on.
Yeah, the plunge.
Yeah.
Look up the plunge, Art. That just
Like
is
the
out.
jacuzzi version.
Like
yeah.
if you get the plunge, that's like a popular brand that I think a lot of people have seen like on social media. Now that's going to be getting into your $5,000 to $8,000 range.
Oh, there's one 14 or 13,000.
and you can get up as high as those, and that's like when you start getting into also the aesthetics.
That's 30,000.
Yeah,
I guess
dude,
you
and
gotta
this
take
is
it
a business.
seriously. Shit. Wow.
And
so,
I heard this
okay.
was, and you were right about the business that like it's
blown up.
only like a few years ago it was like maybe like a $2 million business that they're I think they were projecting like till next year like $1 billion business or
Wow.
something crazy that I heard.
I bet you.
I don't know if you want to look that up, Art, like to fact check me on like the business
Yeah,
growth, but
so
it's,
I'd be curious. Like
yeah.
a lot of the technologies, like think of this. Like this maybe touch on a little bit of entrepreneurship here. So a lot of the technologies that companies that are making like the jacuzzi brand for like hot tubs, right?
Yeah.
That you go into a place, showroom, pick one out, and they deliver it, and whatever else. They got to have a lot of the same infrastructure, I'd imagine, just circulation pumps and whatever else. Probably much more simplified for a cold plunge, and a different unit rather than heating or cooling, right? But I would imagine, I would love to see, whenever you have a sec, Art, you don't need to right now, but if Jacuzzi started their own brand, because Jacuzzi's got to be one of the leading brands of hot tub manufacturers,
Yeah.
right? If they started their own brand or acquired a brand that was already on the come up. I love seeing stuff like that. Like when you start seeing big guys get in, you know there's a market to be had. Like it's a growing industry, and so people are just throwing money at it.
Well, we saw that happen with the weed business too.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and a lot of these bigger corporations, companies, or whatever got into it,
And so that's when like you got to know, that's when timing is so important, right? Because so many people got into the weed sector at kind of like near the peak, still thinking that it was going to climb.
yeah,
You had to get in early to like actually get a foothold and actually become something, and then you had to operate correct as well.
yeah.
So I'm curious, like, you know, I'm sure there's some startups that did, you know, had some cool ideas that created some awesome products for the cold plunge, but I'd love to see kind of like at what point like Jacuzzi was like, we already have the fiberglass technology and whatever else, we can make these things in like millions of quantities. All we got to do is adjust this, and this,
Yeah.
and we're in the money again.
Yeah, but even with this DIY, stuff, and there's so much, and that was the thing too. There, if you look that up, there is just all the knowledge is out there, and that's what's great about the community. There's just a lot of people kind of just sharing that for free to kind of inspire yourself to get into it before you jump into spending thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And just kind of
who do you see using this more age range wise? Do you see the younger generation, or is this like 40 plus mostly?
No, I would say generationally, like it crosses all of them. I think
It does,
that
okay.
yeah, and from what I'm seeing is that you're seeing that there's a lot of people that have been been in the ice plunge game, and I think that these are people, probably even people that were found like, Wim Hof was doing his things years and years and years ago when we were talking about all that scientific research from like, and we talked about like the cool stuff that he was doing, that like he did climbed Mount Kilimanjaro in shorts.
Yeah.
And fighting endotoxins, we're talking about that immunity, like superhero shit, and then teaching people how to do this with cold and breathing. So, so I think you're finding out, like I'm finding out that like when I go in there, I'm like, whoa, dude, there's some people that have been doing it for a long time, which makes them like way older than me. And then I think that also there's such a push and kind of knowledge base on social media that it's like reaching even
the younger generation.
Yeah, the younger generation, because.
I feel like self-induced stress for part of the younger generation would be a big benefit.
I knew you would love that, dude. Because you've always been about that, and we've talked about this too before, getting too comfortable, right? And I talked about that, which was a great point that I think Wim Hof was like bringing up about our controlled temperature houses and liking that at the perfect, and we're not. Where the growth and adaptation happens.
Yeah, we're going backwards.
Us under stress, dude.
I think we're going backwards right now as a society. Like, you have to actually make an effort. Like, this afternoon before the sun sets, which is so goddamn annoying right now, dude. The sun sets at like 4 o'clock.
I know.
And so, but I'm going to go out and we're going to like blaze a trail with machetes. We want to cross this creek, but it's all like overgrown. So I got the boys like with machetes and hatchets. Like you guys want to do this. You guys got to do this. Like, I'll be out there supervising and I'll do it with you. But like, and so it's just like, but like nobody ever does that stuff anymore. Like, we were outside all the time playing and like, getting hurt every once in a while, that kind of stuff. But like now it's just like, you're just sitting there looking at a screen all the time. And it's like, you get so upset by the most minor inconveniences. And
that's where this plays a part too. And that's why I was like, even suggesting the morning stuff is like all these stresses that you have, being able to like, it kind of like puts your body in that chill mode of being able to deal with these things that we think are so crazy and
kind of
stuff.
Fight or flight a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it's like, it's all with
but I mean like personal, like challenge of fight or flight. You're like, no, I'm going to fight through this. I'll get to 2 minutes. I'll get to 3 minutes, rather than like, I'm just fucking jumping out.
Yeah.
Right. That's your flight.
So we have no conscious control of this vagus nerve, is where this is all coming to. This is also like plays a part in this.
Okay.
And this is like everything that can controls like from your heartbeat to like digestion, and so like you can't consciously like control that, right? But through like this kind of cold, that's what you're kind of like really tapping into, is kind of, and where all the improvements and everything that they're seeing with, that you can really kind of start to play in a part of like settling that down, and you can lower your heartbeat. You can lower like blood pressure.
So
you can build the brown fat that they talk about, which only comes from the temperature control. Yeah.
Okay. Brown fat.
Yeah, brown fat, dude. Like, dude, I'm not just saying like this is just the stuff. And I think, and this is like the interesting stuff that really like
build brown fat.
Yeah. So that has to do with like keeping you warm.
Is that better for a BBL?
Well, yes.
Is it?
Yeah, so it also it's crazy, but it sounds like the brown fat also makes your butt bigger. That's some research. We still have to do it. No, just kidding. Just please don't quote me on that. That was just a lie. But okay. I wanted to entice where people do it. But really, what that just boils down to, and yeah, thank you, Art. If you
so here we go. Brown fat, and we will get into wine. I promise. Brown fat is smaller than white fat. Mm-hmm. It stores energy and burns that energy to regulate your body temperature. Brown fat helps you burn calories by creating heat right before your body starts to shiver.
Yep.
Thermogenesis. And it also helps regulate sugar and fat metabolism. That's interesting. They got all different colors of fat. They got beige fat.
Did you know that?
I didn't know that. I thought that fat was fat.
But and you know what?
I thought you had like fat and cellulite.
But go up, Art. Go up, Art. But like the worst of it all is the white fat.
The white fat. Yeah, well that's I figured most of white fat. Of course it's the worst. Fucking entitled white fat.
Thank you. Yeah, man. And like I'm half brown, right?
I know. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm still more Mexican than you because I actually live down there.
Oh my gosh, are you gonna speak Spanish right now,
dude?
Why? Because you speak Spanish better than me.
Quieres, puñetero.
Why do you have to do that? Don't do that to me.
Don't.
Art, don't you jump in either.
Would you like me to translate?
Oh my gosh, Art! Didn't you talk about losing your card, Art? Your Mexican card?
Yeah, I lost it years ago. I haven't got it back yet.
I know how it feels. I know how it feels. Anyways, well, thanks for taking that. I just wanted to
No, that's
so
good.
you
So
could
I
build
gotta,
those. You could just
I gotta try it.
or you get one. I mean, whatever. But
Yeah.
like I was saying, it was really. It's like there's a lot of knowledge out there to build one and jump right into it.
So
Start doing it.
speaking of ice,
So we'll see what happens to me. Actually, let's just
I know,
think.
dude. Are
3
you
months from
actually?
now,
Are
let's
you
see
doing?
what happens to me.
You should go
Will I
get your
still-
blood tested. Like
I should get my blood tested.
go to. I think there's
There's-
a place. There's a place in Napa. I can't remember the name of it. But they'll do blood tests. But like you gotta get a panel. I actually think you need to see a doctor first. But just like go to the doctor and be like, look, I want to see if my levels change, and that'd be a good thing. Actually,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that before I start 75 hard.
Oh,
Or
here we go
175
again.
and
Okay,
the cold
so
plunge.
again, if you have been listening, Joe's starting hard 75 win.
Dude, I get all of
And-
my shit done that I say I'm gonna get done. It just doesn't
I know.
always
It's
happen the day after I say it's gonna get done.
First, just work
It's
on
life.
First, I'm just work
It's
on
life.
changing outfits every day, new clothes.
You know, at least I don't
you
smell
know,
like
you
cologne
showers.
today. Now I smell
You
like
don't.
now I smell like Napoleon
Oh yeah,
without cologne
we're bringing it back.
because I haven't changed for 5 days. It's part of the Wim Hof method. I don't know if you've heard
Yeah.
about it.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I know.
It's about
Is
stressing your body out through bacterial infections and that sort of thing by not showering.
We talked about this too. So do you think that like now it's just all you're gonna hear about is the ice bath? Like, how do you know someone
Yeah,
has
no
an
shit.
ice bath?
I got my
Is that-
phone right here. It's gonna
is
be
that
like
they just
I'm gonna
talk about-
pull up a
am I just
website.
doing
It's like
that?
ice baths for sale.
But this does lead into something if you're still here about wine. But not only is there benefits from doing ice baths, but there's another kind of benefit to fruit.
I think they're kind of related actually. Like I
Yeah.
think cryo-extraction is the ice bath for, if ice baths make a human better, then cryo-extraction makes wines better.
Yeah.
Right. And so I don't know. Have we ever talked about cryo?
We've touched on it, but I thought like this would be a good one.
Okay,
and I know
we're talking all cold
can
shit,
you
and
throw
we
this?
didn't plan
hey,
on this.
Can you say, hey, this is for Rob? Because I know Rob.
Oh, this is for Rob. This is
I
for the
think-
professor, Rob.
This is a shout out.
All right. Yeah. So we kind of happened upon this a lot, years ago, like mid 2000s, and like I was making Pinot, and it was all in bins and whatever.
Yeah.
And so we didn't have cooling methods. Like we had to use dry ice, and dry ice, if you don't know, it is carbon dioxide in its solid form. So, you have liquid, gas, and solid forms of molecules or whatever, right? And so some only have 2 states and some have 3, et cetera, et cetera. Anyways, this is carbon dioxide in its solid form. So what happens is it dissipates just into carbon dioxide gas as it warms up. So what we do is we have a calculation, or what we did, we had a calculation. We'd say like, okay, this fermenter got up to 90 degrees. It's burning through sugar really fast, so we got to slow it down. How do we slow it down? We got to cool it down because that suppresses the yeast growth. And so they're not able to convert the sugars to alcohol as quickly. So we would have a calculation. We'd say it looks like this many gallons of wine fermenting. We have a temperature of 90 degrees or X degrees, and we want to get down to Y degrees, and say 65 degrees. And then we run our formula, and then we just do it all longhand because that's what I actually took algebra in high school. And
And you paid attention.
And then you would toss that many pounds of dry ice in, and it would bring it down, and you'd be pretty like close to target, right? Well, what we saw with that was that each one of those fermenters, and these were like say 3/4 of a ton each fermenter. Anytime we had a fermentation get out of hand and get hot, and we hit it with dry ice in barrel after the fermentation was done, like we'd be starting our aging process, we'd taste through each individual barrel multiple times. And there were all these barrels that like were like, holy shit, this is like super dark, super rich. It's awesome. And we couldn't figure out what it was for years, like a couple years. And so finally going back to my notes and find that the one commonality was that we had dry ice that we had heavily tossed into these fermenters. So we started looking into the science behind it. It was like basically if you think of a grape, you have the skin, the pulp, and the juice and the seed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Each individual grape has that. Where you have all your color compounds and your phenolic compounds, and phenolic compounds are the mouthfeel components. So tannin is a phenolic. You have a number of different phenolics. Some you want more of, some you want less of, etc. But the majority of those are found in the skin, the cell walls of the skins, right? So by using dry ice, we found that we are freezing those cell walls to the point where they're bursting to some degree. Like maybe not so much in lightly applied dry ice, but the heavily applied dry ice, they were really dark wines. So there were a few things that occurred with that. One was, we then moved that up in the production cycle. So when we pick, we layer in dry ice, and that just kind of chills the fruit down. So when we get it to the winery, it's like in the 40s is what we kind of go for, 40-something degrees Fahrenheit. And then once we are crushing it, which we actually don't crush, we only destem, go into a tank at this point, and then we'll layer in dry ice down to about freezing. So in effect, what we're doing is freezing as much of the skins as we can while also keeping it aqueous enough to be able to move those grapes around. So it's not like a big ice cube. So we've gotten pretty good at it. And then we go into a cold fermentation, which was a second that was an evolution of the process. Rather than warming the fermenter up to an inoculation temperature when we added the yeast to start the fermentation, which you might bring it up to 65 or 70 degrees, we just went ahead and inoculated at like 40 degrees, 35 degrees, wherever it was at after a couple days post crushing and cryo-extraction. Mm-hmm. So it was an augmented cold soak is what it was, because the industry typically uses a cold soak, which is you crush, you chill the tank down for 5 to 7 days, and you allow everything to kind of soften up so that you're able to extract everything that Mother Nature gave you from those skins is what mm-hmm. the goal is. That's how you make red wine, is that you're extracting those characters out of the skins, whereas white wine is just fermented without skins typically. Mm-hmm. So I'm talking about the majority of what we know is red and white wine, right? So it's an augmented cold soak, and then we're starting to inoculate at an earlier stage or earlier time frame because we're no longer needing to warm up. And what happens is that yeast, every type of yeast has kind of a different, call it operating temperature, right? So it's a living organism, and if it's too cold, you're gonna have die off. If it's too warm, they will die off, but they're also gonna just spiral out of control and do their job and then die off at prematurely. So what we wanted to get to was an elongated fermentation, and the concept there was like some of the best white wines I've ever had are a very long cold fermentation. You're talking like it might be from the time the fermentation begins to the time it ends. It could be 60 or 90 days, and you get this massive mouthfeel. And so that's not a phenolic extraction of the skins. That has to do with time on lees and just really creating this kind of these like glycerol characters, these like really big mouthfeely components that if you ran a quick hot fermentation, you get a very thin wine. So now that we've inoculated at a cold temperature, let's say the yeast strain can survive 55 degrees. Mm-hmm. And say we're running that fermenter. Now we don't just ferment in bins without temperature controls. Now we have stainless steel tanks that have jackets on them, and we can maintain the temperature throughout the fermentation. So those jackets run cold water, cold glycol through them to maintain that temperature. And similar to your ice bath, we have a temperature set point, and then we have a probe inside. And if that goes up above that set point, then the solenoid valve opens in the back and then releases the liquid to go through the jacket, and the jacket cools down the contents of the tank. So that's kind of how it works. So now the importance of the cold temperature is like we are suppressing the yeast growth. So we're saying we know that we're not a hospitable environment for the yeast. We're running 5 to 10 degrees cooler than where we should for this yeast strain. And there's a ton of different yeast strains, and they all have different benefits and whatever. So so just in this one case, so we'll get down to like say 10 to 8 bricks, because let's say you started at 27 bricks, which is a measurement of the soluble solids, mm-hmm. which is like 98% glucose and fructose, which are sugars. Mm-hmm. And so that's what you're fermenting, is that glucose and fructose. So you're clicking down, and let's say you've gotten, like on a Cabernet, we can get like 3 weeks, if not more, of this slow click down of like a half to 1 bricks per day. And then at about 10 to 8 bricks, so imagine that about 10 to 8% sugar remaining, and we want that to be going down to complete dryness. Then we'll actually re-inoculate. So take that same yeast strain that is of a larger population and a much healthier population. We'll turn that temperature set point up to within those operating temperatures of that yeast strain. Let's just say I think this, like, one of the yeast strain I'm thinking of right now operates from like 55 to 90 degrees. Pretty broad spread, right?
Yeah.
You don't really want to go to high temperatures like 90 because there's just no point. So we'll bring it up to like 70, 75. And then the fermentation will naturally bring the temperature up over a period of a day or two, and then we'll go ahead and re-inoculate, and that gives us assurance that we're going to have a population that is going to be able to survive a declining environment. And when I say declining environment, you have to think of the other factors that are at play. So you have a living organism, the yeast. It is initially put into an environment with just, let's say it's grape juice. It's got sugar, which is its food. It's got nutrients, which are what we call yeast assimilable nitrogen, or NOPA, or YAN, whatever. There's different terms for it. And then you got your temperature that you have control over, and then you have potential alcohol, and alcohol is toxic to yeast. So you put all those factors at play, and then you think, well, once we get down to that last little bit of food, little bit of nutrient, because you're dwindling down, right? You're like less than 1 Brix. You want that population to be solid, to be able to finish that fermentation off without having residual sugar. All the while, when you're down to those dwindling levels of food and nutrient, you're creating a toxic environment, especially with how we ferment and grow and pick our grapes, because we don't mind higher alcohol. So if you're up at 15, 16% alcohol, those yeast are going to be starting to slow down real fast when you're down to the last little bit of residual sugar. So that re-inoculation, as we call it, at a temperature that's more conducive to the yeast strain's operating abilities, that will ensure our ability to finish that fermenter off to dryness. And that was a really long-winded way.
Whoa.
Of
that was so concise though, man.
Well, good.
That was that's awesome. So
anyways,
I
hope we didn't lose anybody, because we went deep into cold cryo-extraction.
Do you think like
everything cold?
Do you think after I did an ice bath, like the water, like that was like cryo-extraction, my phenolics would be like in that water and like find out, you know?
I mean, I would let you know if you were still alive. But
I felt like that was like, I don't know why.
I feel like we should talk about one more thing that's like super cold.
Yeah.
I was thinking about my ex-mother-in-law.
Wow.
Yeah.
But so we can say that it's a way to actually extract more phenolics than just
Yeah, absolutely.
traditional.
Absolutely. So we're able to get our wines are darker because of it. So it started with Pinot. This is another important thing. It started with Pinot, but then we're like, well, hell, if it does well with Pinot, let's try it on other reds. Obviously, it doesn't matter for whites because we don't want that phenolic pickup from the skins and whites.
Yeah.
And we also don't want color. So it's like we press our whites. We don't even ferment with the skins, right? So, but we started doing it with Zinfandel, Cabernet, Merlot, Syrah, Petit, like everything.
Yeah.
And it was a benefit to everything. And so the wines are weightier, rounder, more structured in the way that we want it to be structured. Because here's the thing. If you're fermenting and you're trying to push to get extraction, you're also going to be like, you're going to be breaking shit. Like if you break the seeds open, if you're too heavy on a fermenter as far as like pump overs and just running it or overly excessive with punch downs, which is like continuing to mix the fermenting juice with the solids that are the cap at the top of the fermenter, then you're going to start getting a lot of really coarse tannin or coarse phenolics that are the ones you don't want. So if you're able to slowly get those things out, and it's like just leaching, seeping out of those cells after you've burst them open, you're going to end up with a wine that's much softer, more supple, and I think more of a true expression as to what Mother Nature gave you. And this goes back, as always, to minimal or non-intervention winemaking, which why would you just be like, oh, our process is just this recipe? Like, don't make it like a recipe. Every year is different. And if you're not trying to maximize what Mother Nature gave you with your own personal lens of what the beauty of that wine should be. Yeah. I mean, there's got to be a personal bit in there too. Absolutely. But if you're not like trying to extract all of that, then you're not doing the full service to showcase, like in a case of a vineyard designate. You're not doing your full service to showcase a vineyard designate.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked past episodes too about comparing the minimalist winemaking and this whole idea of this. So I would think that what would there be? Would it be just a traditional maceration of like letting the skins and sit on the juice, but they would maybe consider cryo not like
so
intervening too much?
Typically, this is what I would imagine the majority of minimal or non-intervention winemaking is, right?
Yeah.
I'll go to kind of a higher level, right? So they pick the fruit that's not intervening at all. It just naturally the grapes walk off of the vine, and then they
and
then they jump into the whole cluster walks off the vine, and then it jumps into a destemmer, or not. If you want to be true non-intervention, then the whole stem and everything jumps into a fermenter.
Can't destem it,
but yeah, you can't destem it. So you got to have stems, and so all of a sudden you have these like naturally occurring legs on the clusters that jump into a bin that was not moved there by a human, which would not be intervention if it was anyways. And then, okay, I'm going to stop with the cheeky shit. But
we all know the stems have great phenolics.
So whole cluster, yeah, really. Whole cluster, this is what I would say. Whole cluster goes in, you stomp on them some way, shape, or how, most likely with your feet, get some juices going and everything.
Yeah.
No cold soak. And then you wait for native yeast to ferment.
Yep.
Where does that yeast come from? Some believe it's just ambient in the air. Maybe it's in the winery in the facility. Maybe it's on the grapes, right? So maybe it's on your feet. I don't know. But it comes from somewhere, and it is everywhere. Like if you just leave juice out, like apple juice, over time it'll start fermenting, right?
Yeah.
So okay, then non-intervention winemaking, they're still turning that cap. So let's say you're in a bin. You've got it juicy. Fermentation has started. You smell a little bit of CO2 off at the top because it's one of the byproducts of fermentation. And then you're going to be like, okay, I'm jumping back in the bin 3 times a day and stomping down with my feet. Very, kind of like old school way to do it. But I would imagine that's probably the best way to do it if you don't want to intervene with any mechanisms, right?
Yep.
So you're kind of moving that around, extracting it and everything. And then whatever temperature it gets up to, it could get up to 80, 90. I mean, usually with native yeast, they're not very strong yeast, and so they're not just going to crank through fermentation. So you're probably going to maintain at a decent temperature, and then you're also probably going to be picking at a lower level of sugar because you don't want the risk of sticking the fermenter in either case. So and then once it's completed and there's no more sugar to ferment, then you drain and press. Or maybe you don't press. I actually have no idea. Maybe you press only with your feet again. Maybe you lay on it. Maybe you put it on a mesh screen, and you lay on it. Maybe you and the rest of the winemaking team have a little roll in the hay on top of the pumice.
Maybe you need to talk to them. Maybe they're going to tell you. Maybe you should actually listen to the grapes more.
Oh yeah, you should. I know. God, we should. Wouldn't it be funny if somebody did a movie that was like Sausage Party, but for the wine business?
Oh.
Great.
There you go, dude.
That's it. That'd be great.
That has not been done. That would be awesome.
You'd have like the pompous ass non-intervention grape.
Yeah.
Talking to them like, oh, you're the conventionally farmed one, I see.
And like all the grapes from like different AVAs have their different attitudes. Dude,
that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Okay, hey, we just put it out there. Actually, we should go in. We're gonna come out. Joe's gonna make the movie, write it up.
Yeah. We're gonna write a screenplay that works out well. Yeah.
I think it's also cool to note though too with which I was thinking about this, and I don't know if you already have thoughts on it, but when we're talking about phenolics, but there's also the phenolics that are like for health benefits, right?
Oh yeah,
antioxidant. And so I'm wondering with like, and again, I know it's always a fine line to play. Like when you're talking about the healthiness of wine, we've actually touched on that too, but it is true. Because of those phenolics, right? That with the more extraction, that maybe you're getting even more. You're
ingesting more phenols, and then if you're looking for antioxidants, and this is one that I always like to talk to people about because I hear oftentimes that like sulfur is bad for you.
Yeah,
I'm like, tell me how it's bad for you because it's like the best natural occurring antioxidant out there. My grandparents used to take molasses and powdered sulfur as medicine.
Whoa.
That would like to sweeten up powdered sulfur, right?
Yeah.
And so like that was cold medicine back in the day because like it would fucking nuke you.
Yeah.
But like the thing I've never understood, it's like people say there's also health benefits of going to natural hot springs, right? And that's sulfur water, right?
Yeah.
But sulfur is like we use it as an antioxidant and antimicrobial, but really more of an antioxidant because like if you have a clean winery and if you have the pHs where our pHs are, like you don't even worry about it. It's not gonna stop any bacteria from growing. So clean the winery and worry about oxidation. So, and I've often thought like maybe that's the French paradox is that they drink so much wine with sulfur in it that it kind of preserves their bodies.
Ooh.
Because
Yeah.
it's an antioxidant. It's like, I'm just saying.
Hey,
I am not a doctor, so do not take my advice on this. But I think that there's something positive about sulfur out there. So
not a doctor. Just gonna repeat that. We are not doctors.
We are not
doctors. We're just sharing our experiences and thoughts and just open to conversation of ideas. That was really good though. Thank you, man. That's it's so interesting.
Dude,
and it's cool though how your story was as that you like how you kind of came about it was really just through this like right experimentation.
Yeah,
but and you're like, oh whoa.
Yeah. But that's how the best things happen.
Yeah.
Like you don't know what's gonna, work out good, and you got to keep your eyes open, because accidents can be like the key to success, right? And I think that like that old adage of like 90% of life is just showing up. That's always true.
Yeah.
And so like I try to tell my kids that all the time. It's like you got to be at school because 90% of life is just showing up. You're going to be entrenched in something. It might be like 95% of your week is just the old rigmarole. You're getting through it and you're doing the stuff you got to do. But there's that 5% that an opportunity presents itself that could be a life-changing moment, right? Life-changing, career-changing, whatever. Like
For sure.
And that's it. But you're not going to get that opportunity if you're not there. And this is one of the problems too with this whole like I think COVID kind of a lot of especially the younger generation. I'm getting into this right now.
No, I'm not arguing with you.
I thought we were out.
I know where he's
No,
going.
I was like, we're good.
No,
We're good.
no.
He's hasn't been so fiery.
I know where he's going. It's good.
You just brought.
I was trying to subdue him with this cold episode, and my demeanor was really chill.
So this is like
yes, Joe.
So
Put it out.
The remote work, right? The remote work, it limits people's abilities in such a big way.
Oh, wow.
Because you're doing what is absolutely needed. It's not there's no challenge there. It's very transactional. So you're like, okay, I'm signing on. I'm going to fill out my work orders or whatever, input this data and whatever else. And there's no opportunity that arises. Like you're not able to really communicate with people very much about like, I have an interest in this. I want to try that. It's just kind of like, I got my work done for the day. I'm getting a paycheck, and then I'm going to go and just continue to live my mundane lifestyle. Instead of being like, the culture around you in an organization, being part of that culture and part of that winning team and collaborating and growing, whether it's growing up or growing out or whatever, like that's where I think we really did a big disservice for this generation coming up, because they all are like, no, I like the remote work. Well, are you going to like the remote work when you're in the same position when you're 40, like 20 years down the road? Or are you just going to be like, well, I lost my opportunity. Now I'm kind of lazy, so I'm just going to finish this off until I'm 65. Then I'm going to retire, and then I'm going to go on cruises and eat fucking nacho cheese. It just sounds boring as shit, right?
And drink nacho cheese vodka.
Yeah, drink nacho cheese vodka. Bring that back.
Check out the last episode.
So it's so I don't know. I really do think that the showing up and being a part of something, and it could be the casual moments where you hear something that piques your interest within an organization. Or it could be, you're at a meeting and you see that there's something you're like, I'd really like to just try to do that, or can I throw my spin on that? And like, that's where collaboration comes. I mean, shit, I think the best ideas we come up with are when we're sitting together as a group, spitballing, and it may be a very broad idea. By the time it's over, we have a very distilled idea as to what we want to do, that has brought in other factors and excluded items that may be a hindrance to executing what we want to execute, right? So it's just that kind of shit.
And I also think, I mean, in my opinion, that if we're talking about, as nature intended, or also organic, or how things are supposed to be, or so natural, or like trying to get back down to our roots. I think naturally, as human beings, we were here to connect.
Oh, yeah, absolutely,
communicate.
yeah.
And connection isn't logging in to a Zoom, like that kind of connection, like a human connection with like all the physical and attributes of actually being an experience together live, right?
and you're not and without those things, which are I think a part of human need,
Yeah.
you're not going to evolve. Like you're not going to continue to grow yourself.
Yeah.
And in turn, you're not going to, grow the species.
Yeah. Or we're
Like
gonna,
I mean, like if you really think about it, you're like if the majority of the population is just like content with the status quo from the time you're like 25, that's a species in decline.
Do you remember when you first saw Terminator, bro? And you were like, "This is a crazy movie. Like this shit will ever happen."
Yeah.
What do you think now?
Yeah. Probably. I don't know. Jesus.
I'll leave you guys at that. I see.
All right.
We're
We're going to jump into horrible bosses. So, as always, horrible.bosses@coppercane.com. If you don't know how to spell it, just talk to Siri, actually.
Yeah, or Chat
Or-
GPT,
or
I don't
yeah,
know.
whatever.
Have AI do it for you.
Yeah. And so this is a segment where we talk about other people's bosses. At some point, I'm sure somebody's going to put one in that's me, and that's fine. I'll criticize myself. So here we go. Wow, this brings back some bad memories. I had the unfortunate experience of working for an overt narcissist. The man was an absolute monster who took pleasure in using his perceived power and superiority to intimidate his employees. His managerial style involved quite a bit of screaming at the top of his lungs behind closed doors. That's an interesting one, okay. Though he could have left his door wide open because the entire floor could hear his tirades. He wouldn't stop until his target broke down in tears. Oh, so he's like... Oh, he's screaming at people.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was just like one of those guys, like a rage monster. Like,
that's what I thought at
like
first. when
throwing
he was just,
shit at
like
the
letting
wall?
it out, And I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah. Yeah, like, I mean... that.
he's not hurting anybody, but it sounds like he was.
Yeah, but I wouldn't trust that guy. Like, okay. He wouldn't stop until his target broke down in tears, and we're talking grown women and men alike. He was proud of this fact and smugly bragged about it. So somewhere along the line, I failed to display enough fiend admiration towards him, and from that point on, I might as well have stuck a bullseye on my forehead. If I was not at the morning meeting at exactly 8 a.m., he would close and lock the door and refuse to acknowledge my knocking. Isn't like the ego and pettiness? I just like, yeah.
He's like, I know you're in there.
Yeah. If I arrived at work early, I was yelled at for being there too early. If I chose to eat lunch at my desk, he would throw a fit, saying that I was not allowed to do so because it meant I was expecting to get paid for lunch break. When we went out to lunch as a group, he would act as though I wasn't there, pretending he couldn't see or hear me even though I was sitting next to him. I'm sure you see the pattern here. It made no difference what I did. He always found fault with whatever it is. The last time he screamed in my face, I refused to give him what he wanted, my tears. He kept on and got so hysterical that his assistant had to intervene. I slipped away and went to the women's restroom and cried in hiding because there was no way in hell I was going to give him the satisfaction of seeing me cry.
Oh.
Then one wonderful day, he called me into his office to tell me that I wasn't going to work out there, and gave 2 weeks paid notice in exchange for my promise that I wouldn't defame him on social media like others that had come and gone before me. Wow, I was never so relieved in my life, and I've since moved on to an awesome job with wonderful, supportive bosses and coworkers. But the thing is, I wouldn't have wound up at the job I have now had I not spent those miserable months at Hellcorp. That's not the actual name, Hellcorp. The timing worked out perfectly for me to transition into my new role when it became available. So this ended up being a case of everything happens for a reason. Well, I mean, you didn't need to be, verbally assaulted or abused to find out that there were better careers out there for you. Anybody listening that does have bosses like that, I mean, just know there are other jobs out there that are the same, generally the same role as what you're probably doing now, and more opportunity and good people behind it. So narcissist first. I don't know. I didn't gather narcissism from the guy.
Well, I was going to ask you, like, do you think that there's like these terms now that
narcissist is thrown around pretty broadly,
and I think like social media blows it
Yeah.
up. I feel like anytime you can get in an argument, sometimes like people would just be like, "You narcissist." And you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
if
and
you
it's like,
if you have, yeah.
can you tell me what an actual narcissist
Yeah.
is? Because and they're like, no.
Is it?
No, I've read
Yeah.
the DSM. It's like, just I know enough about what a narcissist is to
Mhm.
not throw it around. let's see.
I mean, I was gonna
Oh,
say,
so narcissism. I'd say I wouldn't say narcissist. I would say, that. I mean, somebody who's obviously like misguided. I think that, while he wanted, I'm assuming it's a guy. I think it was, yeah. Demanding of respect is very different than earning respect.
true.
And I've seen a lot of people that, and I don't look at that as like solely a narcissistic trait anyways, but that's just somebody who maybe they have a low self-esteem and so they just put off the front. And so, but they're expecting, because of my title, my position or whatever, that I demand respect without ever trying to earn it. And I think a lot of people resort to these more primitive tactics, I'll call it, like where they're just like, well, I've got to be the beast, and I've got to be the scary one to get people to, fall to their knees and cower down to me if they're not so willing to do it on their own.
Yeah.
Like kiss the ring, or I'm going to be a
Yeah, but then, but at the same time, I feel like, do you think it's? I think it's really interesting, this whole negotiation part of it, where it was just like, look, I'm going to give you 2 weeks' pay.
Yeah.
If you don't troll me on Instagram, or like,
that's a point where you go to the labor board. Like,
yeah, I was wondering, can you even do that?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
is
you
that,
can.
you
Yeah.
can.
And then once you have, especially if you have multiple people
Yeah.
that had the same experience and they can vouch for this type of behavior, then like if I don't know if this is the owner of a company that is the boss or if this is like an employee, but like,
Yeah.
again, open door policy, or at least have some sort of workaround. Go to HR, like whatever. Like there's got to be something there. And if it doesn't pan out to like actually get rectified, then you go the next step and you can go to like the labor board, right? And like they can do a little like looking into it, because just people like that shouldn't be. I mean, honestly, that dude should be put in a position where he's just sitting there and being treated like a piece of crap so that he knows what it feels like.
Yeah.
Maybe he never got that, or maybe he got too much of it. I don't know.
Maybe
his mom didn't love him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really cold ending.
Well, but it wasn't
we
cold.
got cold.
That was cold.
We agree on that.
But I'm going to bring it back to this horrible boss, because I think you're right. Like there's something like not like to do that like over and over and over again to people. Like that's not just something. I mean, what is his like wife? Does he even have a wife? Like, what does he treat people like? Like he's got a chronic issue, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's fixable. So he should not be in a position of management of any sort. I mean, I'm surprised he's not in jail. Anyways, so that'll do it for Go With Your Palate, the cold, ice cold episode.
This is an ice cold episode.
All right. Thank you all for joining. Until next time, Chris and Joe signing off.
Peace.